Hey everybody, Angela Ardolino here with Your Natural Dog, and my guest today is Hilda Castillo-Landrum from Fauna in the Foothills, and we're going to be talking about collars. Collar safety, which collar is best for which situation, and how a breakaway collar can be a lifesaver. So stay tuned. And we're back talking all about them dog collars. And I want you to share with everybody why. How did you become a person who makes dog collars?
All right. Well, I honestly never saw myself in this position. However, back in January of 2023, actually, my family and I came home. We have 4 dogs. At the time, we had 2. And we came home, and Cooper, our big ranch dog, Rottweiler ranch dog, we always leave him outside to guard the property and do his thing when we leave the house, unless obviously it's like a blistering hot day or something like that. So when we came home, Cooper didn't meet us at the gate, which was very strange. He's always at the gate when any vehicle pulls up.
I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling when you're not greeted by the dogs that always greet you.
Your like heart sinks and you're like, what's wrong? Something's not right. So immediately that's what we thought, where's Cooper? So because the gate was closed, we knew he didn't escape or anything, unless the fence broke somewhere. So it didn't. Finally, we pulled in, looked for him, and he was just laying in front of the house, which was very unusual. He's very lethargic. He wasn't really moving, greeting us. So I went up to him and I was talking to him, petting him, and I noticed that his collar was off. So I asked my husband, hey, did you take Cooper's collar off when we left the house? And he said, no, I was just looking at that too. I was going to ask you the same thing. And I said, no, I didn't take it off. So we have this friend who dog sits and cat sits for us when we leave. We weren't gone on a trip or anything, but sometimes she stops by just to say hi to the animals. So I sent her a text message to see if she happened to come by and take it off, because I didn't want to jump to conclusions and freak out immediately, even though I knew something was wrong. So then I was waiting for her to text back, try to feed him his dinner. He wouldn't eat his dinner. Whenever I would pet him around the neck area, you could tell it was tender. So I was alarmed. Like I knew something wasn't right. So Erica, our friend, she hadn't texted back yet. The next morning, he wouldn't eat again. And I was like, okay, I'm calling the vet. By this point, Erica texted back. She said, no, I didn't take off his collar. I don't know what to tell you. So I decided to start walking the property line because I was like, this collar has to be somewhere if nobody took it off. And my brain was everywhere. I was like, did he get in a fight with a coyote and it ripped it off? Like I didn't know. I had no idea what to think. My brain was going a million miles a minute. So finally, I found the collar. And mind you, it was one of those really thick, heavy duty collars that you would put on a big Rottweiler, because I thought the bigger the dog, the bigger the collar, right? Like you're supposed to have a big, tough-looking, heavy-duty collar on a big, tough-looking dog. So I got the biggest, baddest collar I could find, And here it was, literally snapped in half next to the fence, and my heart sunk. I was like, was he hooked to the fence? Did he, snap this collar? I just didn't know what was happening. So I called the vet, and they were able to get him in a few days. So that was torture waiting. But we waited, got him in, and I took the collar in, and the vet was like, I don't know how he snapped this collar, but he did an exam, felt the neck. He did a full exam, diagnostics, everything. He said he had damage to his trachea. He was already building scar tissue around the area in just under a week, and that he was lucky to be alive. The veterinarian honestly had no idea how he snapped this collar. And the thought of that, sorry, I'm gonna not cry, just devastated me. Imagining him hanging from the collar, struggling for his life, and what that must have felt like, and how painful, not just the fear and desperation, but the pain, and until it finally snapped. And The vet basically said, you are so fortunate that you did not come home to your dog hanging on that fence dead. And I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, I've been on this planet over 40 years, and nobody has ever told me that collars are a danger to dogs. Nobody. And I've had so many dogs, excluding the ones I had growing up as a child. So I was just like, well, what do I do? And he was like, well, you would be surprised how often this happens. And I was like, well, then why don't we know about this? Like, why has nobody told me? Like, why did I not know? Why isn't it on social media? Like, why don't we know this? So I immediately went home and got on Google to look for breakaway collars. You hear about them for cats all the time. Cats need to wear breakaway collars because they can strangle themselves. Everybody knows that, right? Why don't we know that for dogs? Why can't they strangle themselves? Obviously, they can.
They obviously can. Well, I think they must say it about cats and not dogs, because cats are jumping up and jumping over around things. Well, so are dogs.
Absolutely. And dogs also roughhouse with each other. And oftentimes, in dog strangulation incidences, it's because dogs are playing with each other and one of the dog's jaws gets stuck in the other dog's collar.
And I've read that they have broken the jaw and whatever, because now it's strangling the other dog. Yep. So what I got to tell our listeners that I was on your podcast and we were talking and you told me this story, and I know about this because of owning my grooming and boarding shop, where I remember when I bought it from the woman, she told me she came in one morning and there was a dog that had strangled himself with his collar on the thing. And I made it immediately. I had a sign on every single kennel, make sure you remove their collars. We also would remove, and I remember, oh my gosh, this was such a pain in the butt, because we would not allow the collar to stay on even while they were waiting to be groomed. And so, of course, collars didn't always get put back on. And we made a rule: don't give us don't give us your collar. We don't want your collar at all.
We're not going to put it on.
Yeah. Why? Because we're not going to put it on, because when they're sitting in a kennel, we do not want that risk. So I knew about that. And then I had my own personal story, which is my farm had 3 acres, pretty much all contained, fenced in, and then lake. And one of my farm dogs, Mazza, same thing, open up the screen door, collar, she doesn't come. Well, that's not normal. So called her, start doing the walking of the property to find out where she is. And I had a deck that went out onto the lake, and she had jumped down off the side of the deck, and a little screw was hanging out, poking out that, just literally not even a half an inch, and grabbed her collar. And then she had twisted herself around and around and around and was hanging there, barely breathing when I found her. I couldn't believe I found her. I couldn't believe I probably caught her just in time. Thank goodness, didn't have any damage, but I'm shocked I even found her. And didn't even think about that ever happening. I'm thinking, what in my yard would have that happen? You never know. So we're talking about collars, and we're talking about breakaway collars, because there's nothing I love more than a founder who creates something that doesn't exist in the marketplace. I mean, that's where I came from. I couldn't find full spectrum hemp extracts or medicinal mushroom extracts made the right way that were therapeutic for my dog. So that's what I ended up doing. So I love that you took this and you created one, because you couldn't find anything.
I did find some on Amazon. They were the most basic things you've ever seen. They came in 4 colors, and they're still there. And they served a purpose. I wasn't going to ever put anything on my dogs besides a breakaway collar after that experience. So they come in black, royal blue, cardinal red, and purple, the basic colors, and that's fine. I ordered them, and then I was like, okay, but I like my dogs to look cute. I like their collars to have personality.
Yeah. How do they work?
Okay, so they have a buckle, like a regular, like a quick release or belt buckle or whatever. But then they also have another aspect on the other side of the collar. That's the breakaway. So you can get it just like that, in which case you can't walk your dog, you can't do anything. It's literally just a place
For
for ID
identification.
tags or things like that. Yeah. However, if you want it to be a all-purpose collar, which is what I'm making and currently working with an artisan that is making them for me, you can what's the word I'm looking for? Deactivate the breakaway aspect of it, because there's two D rings on either side of the breakaway buckle. Strong, sturdy D rings on these biothane collars. So you hook your leash onto both D rings and it deactivates
Oh,
the
cool.
breakaway. So it won't break away. So you can walk your dog. I mean, I have tested these collars on my friend's very reactive Burmese mountain dog, like massive dog, hates everybody, like bit the housekeeper, like reactive dog, and tried it on her. I was scared. I'm not going to lie. She's like, do you want me to muzzle him just in case it breaks? I was like, no, I believe in this product. Don't muzzle him. And she was like, are you sure? I'm really nervous. I was like, no, don't muzzle him. And she was like, I am really scared. And I was like, I am not. So she hooked him up and I went across the street because I wanted to get some videos and photos. And she started walking, and then I started walking, and he spotted me, and oh boy, did he go after me. It did not break.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, this is like a 150-pound dog, and it did not break. So you can walk your Doberman, your German Shepherd, your anything with this dog or with this leash. And I know that there's so many misconceptions about breakaway collars. People don't understand how they're secure, how they're not going to break away. It's the D-rings. Of course, you can get one without D-rings just for identification purposes. But if I'm going to spend money on a collar, I want to be able to do everything with it, including walk my dog. So my collars have D-rings, so they're like an all-purpose collar and not just for ID.
What I wanted to bring up is that when your vet shared with you how often this happens, and then I told my stories, and then you said that you're hearing it over and over again. So we're hoping that people, like you told me a story about a puppy being strangled by its collar, like that happens all the time with puppies. And how many times it's the first thing people do is put that cute little collar on them and they don't fit right and the puppy is getting into everything. So yes, you guys really have to be vigilant and take that collar off your puppy. Take that collar off. Do not put it on your cat.
Not in the kennel. Not
in the kennel. Not unsupervised. It really does make a difference. I did want to talk about like general collar safety because people need to understand, like, harnesses aren't any better. Harnesses, harness isn't going to strangle them, but I watch so many people put their dog, a lot of times dogs that can't have anything around their neck, like a Frenchie or whatever, put one of those harnesses on and then they're pulling all the time. And that's terrible for training purposes. And people don't understand that literally the dog, if he's going after something or barking at something with that harness on, it literally feels like you're supporting them and you want them to do that with that harness. So it's like a training nightmare, but you can't put the collar on around their neck.
Cooper can never wear a collar again.
Right. So what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I have a breakaway collar on him, but I can't walk him on it because he can't ever have pressure on his neck again. So I do have to walk him on a harness, and it is not fun. It is not fun.
I'm learning about that. There's those Y harnesses.
Like a pull reflex. They have like a pull reflex. My trainer, anyway, I've had many trainers that I've worked with that all say if you put a harness on a dog, they have like this pull reflex and they just want to start pulling. And
it's like you're supporting them from it. It's like that's what, because they think it's like a hug. It's like, yes, this is what I want you to do. It's like, no, that's not what I want you to do. Yeah, I have to put my my two dogs both go on collars, and I use they only have collars for walks, and I use martingale collars, which again was something I didn't know about up until like 5 years ago, which is a collar that makes it so when they do pull, it doesn't pull in one spot. It's more of an even and doesn't cause as much damage. But you guys, the the fancy little tags and collars and things that hang off, or the fancy buckles, those are often the things that cause the damage or make it a strangulation device, and or that metal buckle or whatever hitting the trachea and causing damage. And yeah, if it happens, or even they get an injury, it's something that you have to be aware of for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And I mean, after this happened with Cooper, I did a major deep dive on the internet, on Google, on every where I could read or learn more. I even called actually the company that had those, pretty plain ones available on Amazon that I did purchase for my dogs at the time, before I embarked on my biothane journey. But yeah, I mean, she shared some tragic stories with me that inspired her to make these cloth collars. And another thing I like about biothane is it's so easy to clean. It doesn't stink. And like I said, I'm so grateful for the collars that she created because they served a purpose while I worked on making mine.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted something more, and I wanted something cute, and I wanted something customizable, to have a little flair, to match every dog's personality. But in this deep dive, I learned that 26,000 dogs a year are affected by collar strangulation injuries or death. That's just in the US alone. Just in the US.
And those are just like what's being diagnosed reported, or the vet or reported or whatever.
Exactly. Like, I'm sure a lot of people whose dogs pass away, like, they probably don't get reported. Where I live here in the country in the middle of nowhere, like, if somebody's dog passes away, they bury it in their pasture. I live out in the country, and like that never got reported. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
like, I'm sure there are a lot that don't get reported. I mean, I've heard stories now that I've become more vocal about this topic of people saying, well, my dog only wears the collar when I'm around. Well, that doesn't matter.
It's like having a pool and a kid that doesn't know how to swim. It takes very little time for to happen.
Exactly.
And what if it was like me, where I can't even find where she is. I can't even find where she's hanging from. I have to go search in my yard. Yeah.
So she was sharing how two of her dogs started play fighting, as they do. And one of her dogs' jaws got hooked in the other's. And she was trying so hard to separate them. But I don't know if you've ever seen a panicked dog. It's hard to get your hands on the situation, especially the bigger they are. She tried so hard to separate them. Her one dog's jaw was bleeding everywhere. The other one was gasping for breath and life. And finally, it passed out and collapsed. She thought it was dead. The dog released after the other one lost consciousness. She had to do CPR on it. Thank God she knew CPR, dog CPR, did CPR. She said it felt like an eternity before it came to, but she said it was probably only a minute or two. Came back, never the same again.
No.
Like, never the same again. And she was right there. It doesn't matter if you're right there. It doesn't matter. And, then I have other people who say, well, that's why I just don't put a collar on my dog. Well, I don't think that's the solution either. Because what's even more problematic than dog strangulation collar incidents is lost dogs. That's an even bigger problem. So you need to have a collar on your dog for identification purposes. You can't always rely on a microchip. Not everybody's walking around with a scanner to ID your dog. And also, sometimes they migrate.
I mean, yeah, I love the concept of a microchip, but yeah, I did it for one and didn't do it after I learned about the others. I'm not a believer in them. They serve a purpose, but they're not good for my dog. So they are going to have a collar on. So it is a very good point. What you're making here is if your dog has to have a collar, it better be a breakaway so that you can get rid of this fear, especially if it's an active dog, especially if it's a dog that's going outside, especially if it's being kept in a kennel.
Especially if you have multiple dogs.
Yeah, exactly. If your dogs are play fighting like that, which most of them do. I remember a story of someone's dog strangling itself in the kennel, in a crate, in the back of the car.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that a bunch of times, too.
It's not, you guys, it's not barking doesn't happen. Whining doesn't happen. It's a quiet thing and it's scary as hell. And it's something to be avoided. And I felt important enough for us to do an entire podcast about it. Some of the common scenarios, let's go over them again, is the dogs playing with each other, like you just said, caught on furniture, caught on fences, which is what happened to yours. Like, where did it get caught on the fence? Like, was it the same thing, like a screw out or something, or you couldn't tell?
I couldn't tell because the collar was on the floor, on the ground. It could have been any part of the fence, really. I don't know what part of the fence he was hooked on. I just know that it was on the ground right next to the fence.
They don't know to go, let me go up and around and then I'll get off. No, they just start pulling and panicking. And that's where it gets really bad. But yeah, tugging on a leash so hard, too hard, or going after something can damage that trachea. And damaging that trachea is a lifelong thing that you have to deal with. And there's always going to be like hacking and coughing, and you're never going to be able to put that collar on again. So I don't mean to make an episode all about, scaring you, but I think it is really, really important. I love to be proactive and be able to share this information so that more people can be aware about it.
And it doesn't have to be scary. We're providing a solution,
Right.
And that's why, this happened in 2023, and I didn't start becoming very verbal about it till 2025. And the reason is I shared with you that I don't like to present a problem without a solution. And I didn't just want to be one of those voices on social media that's like fear mongering, and just like, your dog's going to get strangled. Your dog's going to get strangled. Well, what do? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I could. And I did share a little bit when it first happened because I was traumatized and I just wanted to share. So I did, but it wasn't until I could lead people, I could point people somewhere that I was like, okay, now I'm never going to shut up because I want people to know. People need to know. I wish I would have known. I'm reminded of what happened to Cooper every single day because I don't know what exactly happened during the injury, but ever since that day, his bottom jaw chatters now, especially when he eats. And every time I watch him eat and I see that happen, it reminds me of that, and I'm just like, this doesn't have to happen to other dogs. And I'm lucky that he's alive. Yes, he has lifelong injuries, but he's here. There are a lot of pets that aren't. And the more I share, the more I hear people say, either that happened to me or I know somebody it happened to. And I'm like, then why don't we all know about this? Why isn't this a thing? It is for cats. Beats me, but I'm going to try my best to make sure that at least if you know me, you've been warned. That it's a possibility. And our dog's safety isn't up for debate. It's up to us.
Right. And we're responsible. We're their advocates. And remember, a dog is considered property. There's nobody making sure products, supplements, food, nothing is safe. They're not making sure. It's up to us to do that for them. And I'm glad. I'm not glad that this happened to your Cooper, but I'm glad you did something with it because, Cooper's going to save lives now. And thank you for doing something. Tell everybody who's listening how they can find your Breakaway collars in your store and more information about you.
So I'm on Instagram, Fauna in the Foothills, and I post information on there on my stories, posts, reels often. Try to do it at least once a week, once every other week, and with statistics and information and things like that about the importance of Breakaway collars. And then my store is faunainthefoothills.com, and it's a pet store, an online pet store, which is where you can find the collars as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spreading this information and coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me share with more people so more dogs can be safe.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please make sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening from. This is the best way to help pet parents like you find these episodes and get access to all our content. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Your Natural Dog and at AngelaArdolino.com.